Jordan, what were your kind of thoughts on the defense and some good things that stood out positively on the defensive side of the ball tonight for the Tigers?
Yeah, it's hard when you give up 14 points. It's like, okay, well, you should be happy with the defensive performance tonight. But yeah, there were a lot of things that they needed to clean up. But some of the positives, Sammy Brown definitely needs to play more. Just becoming more and more obvious as he gets more acclimated to the defense. Really, really good. Barrett Carter had a much better game today, especially in the second half. Thought he really, he kind of showed up from a leadership role, and he was out there making plays. I think he had a sack and a half, a couple tackles for loss. He had double-digit tackles for the game.
I'll give you a stat line. He had a pretty killer stat line, to be completely honest.
Let's hear it.
10 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, 1 sack, 3.5 tackles for loss.
Okay.
That's a pretty good day. Pretty good day in the office for Agent Zero there. So he tied R.J. Mickens and Wade Woodaz for leading tackles on the team. They each had 10. So
yeah. Those guys were standouts. Avion Terrell had I thought the defensive backs against Alec Ayamaner pretty good, really, really good. I mean, he had the 1 touchdown at the end of the half. I was kind of put Khalil Barnes in a tough situation there with the play call. Like, I don't think Shelton Lewis did anything wrong. I think he was supposed to pass him off there.
Right.
But you really ideally you don't want Khalil your safety on their best receiver like that.
That's a tough cover right there.
It was a good play call by Stanford, recognizing it, knew they could get that matchup, and just unfortunate. I thought overall they did a really good job. He did not hurt you when the game really mattered. He had a couple of his stat line is probably a little. I don't know what his final numbers were because I know he had a couple of catches on the backups.
He had 4 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. If you told me that was his stat line before the game, I'd say I'd take that.
Yeah, we're good with that. Yeah.
So yeah, he really didn't get off on you. I thought they did a good job of defending him. Avion Terrell and Jaden Lucas, for that matter, he had some snaps against him as well. And they held up really, really well in coverage. So that was really good to see. The interior of the defensive line is still really, really damn good. And you had a couple of guys making plays out there. DeMonte Capehart, when he's out there, he's just extremely difficult to take down. Yeah. Trey Williams, he's playing the best football of his career. We haven't really talked about him a ton, but he is like legitimately eating people alive down there. Trey Williams playing really, really good football. Yeah. It was good to see because he's a guy that just throughout his career has struggled to kind of stay healthy and stay in shape. And so that was good to see. See other standouts. Wade Woodaz with that pick. Just a really athletic play. Way to read his eye, the quarterback's eyes.
That's a tough catch too.
It's a tough catch. He had to fingertip it and then corral it with his body as it was going down. That's a tough one. He's an athlete for sure. Those were a couple of the standouts. I think. All in all, like you gave up, you gave up a lot of yards, and they continued to move the ball up and down. But I thought, you're just bowing up in the red zone when you did, creating those turnovers. I mean, you can't expect to do that every week, but sometimes that's what you got to do. What you got to do is what you got to do. But those were kind of my standouts. Trying to think of who else. See a couple people mention TJ Parker. Yeah, TJ Parker was in there. He made a couple of nice plays today. Stephon Green, yep, he's getting more and more snaps as the weeks go by, and I'm really, really happy for him because was in that 2023 class. He was probably my favorite defensive line commit. So seeing him get out there on the field because he's a load, man. And it just once he's got acclimated to the defense, and we're seeing him more and more, like he's going to be a problem for a lot of defenses. So good to see. Yeah, those are probably my standouts. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, Barrett Carter definitely probably played one of maybe his best game this season.
Yeah,
definitely had a crazy stat line tonight. Definitely felt his presence specifically in that second half. It's good to see him kind of look like he's finally looking a bit more like himself, a bit more like what we thought he would look like this season. A little bit of a slow start to the season, but maybe this will springboard him into kind of the rest of his season, and hopefully that's the case. Wade Woodaz had a pretty good night as well. 10 tackles, 3 solo. RJ Mickens 10 tackles, 3 solo as well. So those guys kind of had a good night. You mentioned Avian Terrell, and really just the rest of those cornerbacks. I think did a really good job tonight. They did not allow a ton of huge plays. They, couple pass interference calls here and there, but that's to be expected when you're fighting and doing those sorts of things. But definitely much more improved play, I think, by the linebacker position tonight. As far as the D-line goes, the contain, still a bit of an issue for Clemson. We allow teams to break contain far too many times. We got kind of gashed in the rushing game tonight a lot. I don't know how many explosive run plays we gave up tonight, but I'm sure it was a lot, like probably more than 5, like 15 to 20 plus yard run plays tonight. Had to be. At least it felt that way just watching it. I don't know the exact number, but
I know at one point they showed a graphic that Stanford they had like 520 plus.
Oh, had they? Okay.
Yeah, something like that. So,
okay. Yeah. So that was the the defensive tackles, I think, continue to play really well. I think we did get some good pressure on Stanford tonight, and didn't necessarily have to blitz a ton to get it. But again, the breaking the contain, the run defense kind of gives you pause for concern, right? The just we seem
it's because it's a trend, right? Like we've seen it in every game. Like this defense at points get gashed by outside runs,
right.
and it's setting the edge. Like not just it's not just the backups getting killed. It's the guys that the starters and the second string that you expect to be continuously in the rotation. Like it's a problem. It's got to be fixed because you've put a lot of that on tape. It started with Georgia in that second half, and teams have been doing it over and over and over again now because they're like, okay, they are not very gap sound on the edges, and they are easy to manipulate, get guys out of their run fits and stuff.
Absolutely.
So that's got to be better. There were just a couple of times guys were getting caught looking in the backfield. It was good to see AJ Hoffler out there, but he was there. He had multiple instances where he was not, setting the edge.
Bad eye discipline, eyes in the wrong position, letting people break contain. Just that sort of stuff worries me about this Clemson defense. I know we were really high on the Clemson defense coming in, and maybe they've gotten a bit of a pass. I'm not saying this is a bad defense at all. So relax in the comment section. I'm not, dunking on our defense. We only gave up 14 points. But Stanford was able to move the ball up and down the field far too easily tonight for that to be acceptable, right? Now, props to the defense where props is due, and they bowed up in the red zone, and they didn't allow those touchdowns to happen. They held Stanford 0 for 3 on 4th down conversions when they were trying to keep drives alive and they were trying to put the ball in the end zone. So shout out to the defense for that. That's the positive, right? That's when their backs are against the wall, they rally the troops and they get it done, right? That's awesome. But those explosive run plays that you're consistently allowing to happen, specifically on the edge of the defense. We got to clean that up. And the other thing that really stands out to me is we are still not tackling well as a whole, as a group. And I'll put that on the entire defense because it's not just one position group. You'll see the cornerbacks do it. You'll see the linebackers do it. You'll see the defensive line do it. Like, it's a group effort with the lack of tackling on the defensive side of the ball. We're doing these reaching out arm tackles far too often and giving up additional yardage that should not be there. Got to clean up some of the tackling. Got to clean up the run defense. But again, you gave up 14 points when it really mattered, when it was fourth down. You did not let Stanford convert a single fourth down tonight. And I don't know what their number was on third down, but I will look it up real quick. They were 7 of 17 on third down. So pretty good for getting them off the field when you need to, specifically on those fourth downs. So that was just some of the concerning things that I saw from the defense tonight, and that we've kind of seen for several weeks back to back with this defense. Wes Goodwin's got to get that cleaned up. He's got to go back to the drawing board. He's got to figure out how to get it cleaned up. Now, the addition of a healthy Peter Woods may go a long way in cleaning up some of that stuff, right? And hopefully we have him back for the Florida State game. I think he probably could have played tonight if we really needed him. Seems like they wanted to hold him another game. Hopefully he's getting healthy. Seems that lower leg injury, that knee injury, whatever it was from that cut block, was a little bit more than maybe Dabo or anybody else wanted to lead on.
Yeah. And I had gotten some, like, after that game, I had gotten some inkling. Okay, yeah, it's not going to keep him out long, but it's like super long, but it's something he's going to need to take some time to heal from. So, yeah. But yeah, hopefully you get him back. But I think, at the very least, this is a good chance to develop the depth behind, because we've talked about it. We want to see guys step up on the edge outside of Peter Woods and TJ Parker. And, you've had multiple guys with moments. Cade Denhoff got the start, and he against NC State, and he got the start again. Thought he was okay at times. It's still a little bit inconsistent. And then beyond that, you have a lot of guys that just don't have a lot of experience. I thought Jaheim Lawson showed himself a little bit more in the pass rush. That was good. I wanted to mention him. But still, run defense, he's still kind of undersized. Like, it's just like it's hard to keep him out there if you're not gonna if you can't stop the run, because Stanford was perfectly fine with running and doing quarterback counter and run game on 3rd and 7 and stuff. Like, you need to have bigger bodies and guys that are able to set the edge. So it's kind of that's kind of a continuing thing to kind of figure out situationally who needs to be in
right
off the edge. But you still also want to get your guys experience, so you're continuing to develop that depth. And again, the opponent you're facing next week in Florida State, they're certainly not very good. But Mike Norvell has, just throughout his tenure, he's a guy that's going to, when a team struggles stopping the run, he's going to run it. And he has creative ways to get the run game going, and they have good backs. Lawrence Toafili, Cam Davis, the true freshman. We'll talk about that more, in the week.
Right.
That's while they are not particularly daunting offense, they do have some talented backs, and so you don't want them to get off on you, because then that makes everything easier for whoever starts at quarterback for them.
Yeah, for certain. Definitely some stuff you got to clean up, and Mike Norvell, like any other good offensive coordinator, is going to try to exploit your weaknesses and exploit the things that you don't do well that you've put on tape. And Clemson certainly put that on tape, and they got to go to the drawing board and figure out how to fix that and figure out how to make that a little bit better. But before we kind of transition to the special teams and ultimately to the comment section, shout out Daniels, saw a boot. He had a boot on his ankle on the sideline. He looked.
I hope it's not. I hope it's not what it seemed like it was, because he was distraught.
He looked to be visibly upset, so I don't think it's nothing. Yeah. Somebody being that upset, I wouldn't think it's an ankle sprain. Probably something a bit more severe, and it's going to take some time, at least judging by his demeanor on the sideline. He was visibly upset, and you hate that. I was screaming.
He battled out there, man.
He battled out there, and I was screaming about him the whole game because he was frankly just pissing me off because he was just gashing our defense.
He's frustrating, man.
He's at will, and it was so frustrating to watch him just gash the defense. But that dude's he's a beast out there, man. He's he battled, and I don't wish any player getting hurt. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. And hopefully he gets back sometime this season and looks like the same player that he was prior to whatever injury he sustained in that game tonight.